Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jack Holder. I am the editor and uh, creator of the Great Commandment Comics Anthology. Sorry, having technical difficulties at the exact same time for just one of our launching points. But we do not have technical difficulties with our guest today. His name is Aaron Williams. He's actually one of the creators for The Great Commandment, as well as my first anthology, Why Faith. I'm so honored to be able to talk with him today because we're going to be talking about his contribution about The Great Commandment, Why Faith. We're going to be talking about working in comics and both indie and anthologies, and we're just going to have a grand old time. So if you have any questions for us, if you want to share any thoughts or concerns, please make sure to leave a comment. We will try and answer as many questions as we possibly can. And let's just have fun. It's Wednesday. It's a hectic time, which means it's the perfect time to grab a drink with a buddy and enjoy talking about comics. So let's answer the first question that most people likely have. What is Great Commandment Comics Anthology? What is this? You're saying it's going on right now. What does that really mean? Well, every single part of our lives has some form of command guiding us in some way, from the high and eloquent, you must love your neighbor as yourself. We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, vote on a Tuesday and hopefully figure out what's going on over the next coming days, to the more common everyday phrases that we always hear. Make sure that the bins are set out every week. Make sure we got to make sure there's enough food in the house. Let's go over the grocery list. Have you checked in with your loved ones? To the lowbrow, comedic, and truly heartfelt commands, such as live long and prosper and be excellent to each other. But just as much as these commands are extremely important to us and to society, so too is our response of, yes, but what does it all mean? What does being excellent to each other really mean? And that is what the Great Commandment Comics Anthology seeks to answer. Over 24 comics and tales talking about commands in our lives and throughout all of society, describing how the way life is, how it could be, and maybe even how it should be. We have stories with Samurai Akitas, quoting Sun Tzu and defending the house from ninja cats and giant mailmen, to all the way up to the very gates of Valhalla, figuring out who is worthy. From the atrocities committed at the southern U.S. border to the pain and misery felt by a young dog when they find out that their owner is not exactly the best person that they possibly can be. And we actually have the writer, artist, creator for that comic. It is Screams of Thy Father, and it is by Aaron M. Williams. Aaron, thank you so much for being here today. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your work?
Hey, Jack. Hey, everyone. Thanks for having me here. Yeah. So my name's Aaron Williams. I go by Aaron M. Will on Instagram if you want to check me out there. And I love comics. Screams of Thy Father is a story that I had a lot of fun making. I wanted to try to draw animals that I haven't really drawn animals before. And I think this story just really came together for me while I was working on it. Did a lot of experimentation with page layouts and stuff, which we'll probably get into in a little bit. Had a lot of fun with it, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Those of you who pick up the book. But yeah, I love comics, and I'm really interested in horror. That's just something that I'm really like trying to experiment with in comics, and because like horror movies have always been something that I've been really into, and I just want to see like how far I can take it in the comics medium. There's so many great examples of horror in comics. You know, as we have Swamp Thing, Stephen Bissett, and we have, you know, things all to Preacher to those old school Tales from the Crypt EC comics. So I'm just really trying to experiment with horror and see if there's anything I can put in from my experience into that genre within comics. But yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. There's this really weird trope among writers in comics is the most bubbly people are the ones who tell the most horrifying stories. So already we've got that. And this is actually not your first go round in an anthology with me. We actually ended up collaborating together in Why Faith.
Yes, yes. Cycles was the first story that I did in Why Faith, and it tackled ideas of artificial intelligence and creationism. Um, and it's a story that I was just thinking about. You know, the whole Adam and Eve story and all that kind of stuff, and what if that's like a blueprint people can use to build like a digital universe, you know what I mean? And in the story, this guy, this computer scientist, figures out how he can do that and creates digital consciousness in a digital world and brings one of those digital beings into the real world. And yeah, it's a story I also had fun with. Actually, it was Cycles was the first comic that I ever made.
Really?
Yes.
It does not look like it. Seriously, like I'm trying to pull it up. While I'm doing that, also talk about the plot for Screams of Thy Father because it is very different.
Yeah, so like I said, I'm interested in horror. So the story is a little bit dark. Anyway, it's about this dog, a newborn pup, and he's in like an adoption place, right? So he just was born, and the older dogs are telling him about, you know, how life is and stories of like the Goliaths that come and take certain dogs away and the type of people or type of beings these Goliaths are. And these Goliaths are us humans, you know. The story I want to tackle idea of how animals and pets look at humans, and to dogs I was like, okay, well, to dogs, humans could be like Lovecraftian gods. You know, we can be all forgiving or we can be cruel. And a lot of dogs have experiences with, you know, either or side of the spectrum, right? And in this story, our main character gets picked up by one of the bad apples, and it's a person who trains him to be a killer in dogfights and nicknames him Sting. And so you just follow his life of how he grows up with this, you know, this dogfight trainer, and hopefully how he tries to escape. And yeah, that's the premise of the story.
Excellent. What you see with Aaron's work is very much the idea of not a non-benevolent creator, but or higher figure, but an all-powerful figure whose morals are either ambivalent or negative towards the creatures and beings that are beneath them. So you seem to really want to delve into, well, what happens if we have a cruel and unforgiving master?
That's an interesting thing that you point that out, because that is something that I often think about. And it's like, okay, well, what if our creator or a creator, if we are creations, right? What if we're just like a video game, like The Sims or something like that, and we're just an old save file that maybe he plays sometimes, maybe he doesn't play sometimes, and we're just living out life. Just, you know, like what if that's what it is? And a lot of my stories, I guess that theme really does come through if you caught it. But
And it's drawn beautifully. And we were
thank
talking,
you.
Before we jumped on, and it was like Cycles. Very much, it seems like the focus was on what kind of colors can we get in here.
Hmm.
Screams of Thy Father. We were talking about this. You really drew back from colorful and tried to really experiment with grayscale.
Yeah. So if anyone knows about me, I'm the host of a podcast called Comics Manifest, and on that show, I interviewed over 100 creators, and I put it on hiatus about 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, actually, because while I was doing it, I started it because I wanted to start making comics. You know, I was like, I never really took it seriously before. I drew in my life, but I was never like, all right, I need to really hone my skills or whatever. But something happened. I was like, okay, I want to take this seriously now. So what do I need to do? I'm behind, right? So I'm like, I need a crash course. So I made the podcast. Um, and I was like not on the internet at all, no social media, nothing. Right? Started a podcast. People thought I was crazy. They're like, "Dude, three episodes a week, you're insane." But I was able to talk to so many incredible people, including Kazu Kibuishi, Jeff Smith, Kevin Eastman, like a lot of my heroes. And pretty much, I was talking to them about, you know, how they were able to turn like their passion into something that they built their life around, so like a career. So I have over 100 episodes of creators sharing their stories and inspiring new creators to really dive into their passions and try to build their life around it. But the thing is, doing that podcast really took a lot of time, and I wasn't drawing at all. And I was like, man, I need to start like Im- like implementing a lot of those like lessons that these people are telling me into my own work, and really take it seriously, and apply it, put some time into drawing. So I put the podcast on hiatus, and it took a couple years and to just draw and like take my art seriously and see what I can do in the comics medium. Like, what can I say? What's my voice? Like, what's my style? Like, what do I like to do in art or in comics? And your anthology came up right at the beginning of that, and I was like, all right, let's give it a go. So you accepted my proposal, and I made Cycles, and that was the first comic that I ever made. And I've been, you know, you can see that Screams of Thy Father is a lot different than Cycles. You might be able to tell that it's the same person making the line, a same kind of story, similar ideas. Um, but I feel like there's been some growth in those past, year and a half or 2 years, and yeah, I'm starting to really enjoy like the type of work that I'm making now, and I feel like I'm onto something. So we'll see how it goes.
Well, it is easy to see because you do seem to be developing your art style,
Yeah.
so people can actually see, oh, that's a Aaron Williams production.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but definitely, we want to talk about what it's like starting the comics journey. We've been talking about being an indie creator, indie publisher. So first off, a lot of people are, if you're like a fledgling writer artist, very much it's why go independent? Why do things indie? Why not just start shooting immediately for like Top Cow and Image or DC or Marvel?
Well, if that's something that you want, if you really want to draw Spider-Man, then I'm not going to tell you not to. If that's something that you really want to do, there's a lot of people that have done that. Sean Isaacs is someone that I talked to, and that's what he really wanted to do. And now he's working at Marvel. And he's drawn a lot of their big books. Um, so if that's something you want to do, you can go that traditional route. You can, send samples to Marvel. You can go to the now digital conventions, right, and pitch your stories and pitch your artwork and bring your portfolios. But for me and for a lot of people that are in the indie world, I think the real thing that attracts people to it is the community. You get to build like relationships with people that like your work, and it's a more personable like experience. Like, there's someone who comes up to you and has like a one-on-one connection with your work and really appreciates like how much effort you put into it, because comics take a lot of time. As cartoonists, we all know this. So it's nice to hear that people enjoy the work that you're putting out there, because sometimes you might not even know, okay, do people even like this thing? I think it's cool, but there's so much great work out there. And you can't compare yourself to anybody. That's the first thing. We all have our own styles and our own things, and with comics, I like to say it's not about how good the comic like looks, it's about how clear it is and how clear the story is. Clarity over style all the time for me. Like it doesn't matter how well it's drawn, if the story is clear and it's easy to follow, then you're onto something. But anyway, like I was saying with the indie world, it's more of a person to person experience, and there's a whole community of other people that are doing the same thing, making their indie books, and you can really build a nice community of people who share the same interests as you, and are people that you can really build friendships with in the comics world. So yeah.
That's absolutely right. The indie world is also very much a close knit community. Like once you start getting like up the personal professional rungs, like I have a anthology in here, or I've worked and put out a couple of Kickstarters, you really start to recognize just how many people are uh, not about taking it seriously, but who have really started reaching out as well. It is a very close knit community that was made all the more apparent to me once COVID hit, and it didn't feel like the indie comics world missed a beat online.
Yeah.
Like
We're all inside anyway. That's the thing.
we are all inside. Like as we were doing this anthology, I thought I was going to go insane because the first couple of weeks I was like, okay, how long is this going to last? And once we hit April, I think I started emailing you, Aaron, and the rest of the teams. Hey, I'm probably going to be pushing the deadline back a month.
Yeah.
Because, yeah,
Yeah, because even though it like the indie world didn't really skip a beat because we're always inside, it did really, what happened really did shake everyone up, I think a little bit. Like maybe we weren't as excited to work on our as much as we did, the month prior to the outbreak really hitting and setting in. Um so yeah, I'm pretty sure everyone was grateful that you pushed back the deadline to give us time to really get our comics to where we all wanted them to be. But yeah, yeah, in indie world, we survive.
yes. And I'm not going to say that it's been easy for us. Number one source of income for me as a creator, uh, with a very distant second being online sales, would have to be conventions.
Hmm.
And I don't even know if I'm going to be going to a convention in 2021.
Yeah.
And that's even before we think about who may or may not win in like the next week or so.
Hmm.
It's just I don't want to be around people.
Yeah. At least big groups, and I think that everyone shares that same sentiment, and it's nothing to be, standoffish about or anything, because yeah, it's definitely not. No one wants to get sick is the thing. You know what I mean? And you don't want your loved ones to get sick because of you. That's something that everyone is scared of, right? Um, but yeah, things are definitely changing, and like you said, you're not even thinking of going to a convention. And I think people that just like to go to conventions and aren't necessarily tabling or selling anything there, they also feel the same way. They're like they don't want to go to a convention. Heck, they don't even want to go to a movie theater, right? Um,
No.
so yeah, so that things are definitely changing, and the way that in the indie comics world does things and makes sales or shares their work with people and gets their work into hands of people that want to read it is definitely going to change, and it's something that we're going to all have to figure out, right? And there's a bunch of different ways that we're maybe doubling down on, like online sales through you know doing things on social media, what have you. I don't know what the answer is, but things are definitely going to change, and we'll figure it out. We're a resourceful group.
So what are some of the strategies that you found in that 100 episodes for Comics Manifest, especially for people starting out on this? Like, how much, how should people take it seriously?
Okay, yeah, that's a good question. The big thing that I got from speaking to a lot of those people, and when it comes to people that want to take it seriously and really start making comics and pursue you know really making comics and selling their work to people, is you have to really believe in yourself. You know what I mean? No one's gonna like your work if you don't like your work. So the number one thing is you got to have something to say, is the thing. um, and I think with comics, that's the most important thing. uh, sure, you can make pretty pictures and stuff, and you can make collections of work that are a bunch of pinups, but that's not comics. If you're interested in comics, I think the big thing is you have to have something to say. You have to have a story that you believe in and that you're excited about, because especially in the indie world, I didn't mention this, but enthusiasm is the big draw. Like, everyone in indie comics is super enthusiastic about comics. I guarantee you, like, you can take anyone working as like a penciler or inker at like Marvel or DC and pit them up against any indie creator. The indie creator is gonna be more enthusiastic about comics than that inker or penciler. It's just in our blood. We love comics. We're excited about it, and we're so excited about it. We're willing to not even make like as much money as people that are doing penciling, inking, Marvel, DC, just because we're so excited about it. It's not our main thing, but we're just super super enthused by comics, and the medium, not just superheroes or what have you. And but yeah, like the main thing is you have to really believe in yourself, and you have to set the time. You have to do the work. I feel like another big thing is people, they plan like these projects or these comics. They might write a script, they might do some thumbnails, and then they feel overwhelmed. Like, oh, whoa, this is a big project, right? You really have to set the time. It's not going to be easy. Making a comic is a lot of hard work, and you won't know how hard it is for you or how fast you are or whatever until you actually try it. You really need to dedicate yourself to actually starting and finishing a comic, even if it's a 2-page comic, a 1-page comic, a 6-page comic. You really have to finish, start and finish a comic, because a lot of people, a lot of us, even within this anthology, probably have like 10, 20, 30 projects that we're like excited about making, but they're just unfinished. We'll get to it later, right? We just have a bunch of different things going on, a bunch of different stories that we're juggling at a time and tinkering with. But yeah, you just have to start and finish your story, and really really put in the time, because it's going to take time. Um, those are pretty much the main things. Jeff Smith left me with a really cool piece of advice at the end of our episode, and he said, "Draw your ass off," and that's what you're gonna have to do.
Uh, so much to unpack from that answer. Going back to conventions, I've spent time talking with artists at Marvel, who were feeling depressed because they were working on projects and intellectual properties that they knew they didn't have any chance of actually owning their own work.
Mm-hmm.
So did they love the fact that they were able to work on X-Men and Spider-Man and Batman? Of course. And they loved the actual money that was able to come in. But it very much was a job.
Mm-hmm.
And my advice constantly for people, especially if you're a writer, if you're just doing the writing, please, please, please don't try and find your 100-issue magnum opus immediately. You should be trying to find the anthology pieces that you can submit to. You should be finding the small comics. Don't even try to figure out a webtoon for for a while because you're trying to discover your own style, your own work ethic, which is a lot harder than people give it credence for. Uh, and this is being independent is very much you kept saying enthusiasm.
Hmm.
It's not just a requirement to be successful, it's a requirement to survive because this is a very, very niche market, period. Like, you're not going to see Joe Random walking into Barnes and Noble saying, "Can I find the indie comics?" Because Barnes and Noble is not going to be selling them.
Yeah.
Like, it, it is a very small market, and I've gone to conventions both for writer conventions and I've gone to comics conventions, and I've seen independent writers who do like prose books being like, "Why did they make me pay for this booth?" And I'm like, "You clearly have never been to a comics convention before." Like,
Yeah.
we pay and we hope to make back table.
Just make back the money. Yeah, I think the big thing for tabling, even from my even from interviewing a lot of indie creators in Comics Manifest, the main goal wasn't even necessarily to make a bunch of money, but just to get their name out there, right? They want people to know, here I am, this is what I make. If you like it, pick it up. If you don't, that's all right. It's not your thing, but I made it for you. And that's something too. I like the whole sentiment of you just making something, and not being afraid to put it in front of someone and say, I made this for you. Do you like it? That's all it
Mm-hmm.
is. And that's what we're doing. Because I know there's a lot of people too that are afraid to put their work online and really put themselves out there. That's another piece of advice that I was getting um, when I was doing my interviews. And yeah, you can't be afraid to do that, because you might look at your art and you're like, oh, I don't know, it's not so hot. You know what I mean? Because I know we've all been there. But you just have to put it out there. You made it for some. You made it. You present it. I made this for you. Do you like it? And keep on doing that, and people will like your stuff. I guarantee you. But I like also what you said there, Jack, about starting small, and taking baby steps is something that um, you should also consider, and definitely do. Start with a 3-panel comic, then do a page comic, then do 2-page comic, then do a 4-page comic. Start small, and like you said, work ethic. We all don't know what yours is. Everyone's different, and to do something big, like even a 50-page comic or a webtoon, you really have to be dedicated. And you don't know if the first story that you come up with is something that you want to dedicate yourself to until you experiment and start making more stories, because your stories are just going to get better and better and better. So yeah, start small. That's a good one.
I agree with Nigel Carrington. This sounds good. All facts.
What up, Nigel?
Uh, it's really it's one of those things that's really hard, especially like if you read things beyond comics or everything else. Like, it's training your mind to be able to think differently. Like, at the exact same time as I'm trying to do comics, it's let's see what we can do to break into prose at the exact same time.
Mhm.
So while I'm having conversations with comics artists, going, you got to figure out how you can condense everything down and think about condensing everything down. Prose figures are like, okay, so if you can't write 100,000 words, you should really you really need to figure out what else you're going to do instead of prose fantasy. I'm like, 100,000 words? Are you kidding me? Like, I can do in like 5,000 words, I can do a full comic.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing too, especially with short stories and anthologies, which is something that I think is really good about anthologies, is that it forces cartoonists or just comic creators and writers and artists to, like you said, condense a story, because you don't have a lot of space. I had 6 pages to do what I want to do, And I had some of my friends read the story. They're like, "Aaron, it's good, but I can tell, man, this is a big story that you're fitting in 6 pages, and you did it. It's impressive." But it's the thing. You have to condense your story to fit 6 pages, 4 pages, 8 pages, and it's not easy to do, but it's good practice. And I think if you're someone that's just starting, or someone that's trying to build that skill of just cartooning and storytelling, anthologies are like your best bet. Even if there aren't any going on that you're interested in joining and participating in, do a one man anthology or a woman anthology. One woman or one man anthology, right? And put a bunch of short stories in there. Make an Etsy account, put it up for sale, start an Instagram. People might buy it. You never know.
Do something like a $50 Kickstarter for a digital release. What I've seen people actually do is like almost digital zines with what they did is they reached out to like 5 friends going, "Hey, can we each do a comic with a theme of like vampires? We're going to do we're each going to just contribute a small comic." And another thing to remember for indie creators is quite possibly the most popular comics people are the people who are in the funny pages. Think about James Watterson, Bill Ament, the guys who did Calvin and Hobbes or Foxtrot, Family Circus. They are supposed to condense everything down into 4 panels, as you were saying, Aaron. Doonesbury, like how do you figure out how to talk about major political issues or write the perfect joke in 3 panels that has to fit that big on a Sunday news page?
Mm-hmm. And they did that daily, every day. But yeah, that's definitely good practice. Doing 4 panel strips. Gag strips are fun to do if you want to try that. When I was first starting to make comics or just play around with the idea, I was doing some gag strips. I will not share them. Don't worry, they are too cringy. But yeah, it's something to do to get you used to making comics, because it's definitely a skill in and of itself. Making comics, it combines a bunch of skills together, but the combination is an abomination, and it's an abomination that you have to wrangle, right? And you have to like train, and you have to build that skill, one step at a time. And gag strips are perfect for that. But yeah.
Excellent. So we have reached what I like to call the QVC portion of the interviews.
We're gonna hit that music.
Because we are in fact selling the anthology that Aaron is part of, The Great Commandment. It is on Kickstarter right now. We have just over a week to go. We are literally 1 backer away from 100. Like, that is insanity. I've never actually run a 100 backer Kickstarter. That's a personal goal for me that I hope we can accomplish today.
Yes, let's get it.
So if people are interested in getting Screams of Thy Father, you have to get the Great Commandment. If you want one with extra content and more artwork, you definitely can, because we have a deluxe version there. If you want to get Aaron's Cycles, which is a part of Why Faith, the first anthology we did, there is actually the Philosophy print and the Arcane Industries anthologies, digital anthologies rewards, where you could get them either digitally or in print. So make sure you get Aaron's first published work and the new one. What else? We are actually getting comments. I love being able to get comments.
I don't think I can read them. What are people saying? Oh wait, comments. Let me see here.
So here is from Nigel Carrington. His advice: copyright your work and put your work out there. Jump out bare naked in the cold world. Don't be afraid. Best way to learn.
Yes, Nigel. Wise words, man.
This is like some of the hardest things that it is to actually learn. A lot of creators are by their nature introverts. I know I am.
Hmm.
It took me pretty much being in a long-term committed relationship with someone who actually liked me and liked my work to get to the point of maybe I should actually start putting some stuff out there. And after that, it started getting into an F it. I'm going to actually put this out here.
Yeah.
Like people who are a part of Why Faith and the Great Commandment said, I'm going to be a part of this. This is not going to work. This is not going to be successful at all. And I am totally going to be a part of this, but I want you to know that an interfaith comics anthology is not going to work.
But
Like,
it did. And you're holding the book right there.
the book is right here. It in the midst of the election, we'll just say it's the kind of thing that on paper shouldn't work because it's talking about faith and religion and politics in a compassionate, interconnected manner, where the requirements really were based on let's celebrate our differences, don't be a d-bag, don't denigrate other people, and from there explore your own ideals. But that shouldn't work. Actually, that's the weird thing. Is unless you have a particular position to sell, it's not going to actually sell as well.
Yeah, yeah. It's awesome that we were able to put it together and put it in print and actually make the book. Um, yeah, it goes to show that you don't know unless you put something out there. Like I was saying earlier, make that anthology yourself. If there's not anything that's catching your eye as far as like a big book like this, and make an Etsy page, print some copies at your local printer, put it up there. You never know, people might buy it. Also, a thing for people like what Nigel was saying about just jumping out there in the cold world. Don't be afraid. Um, if you are an artist or a cartoonist and you're not on social media, get on social media. You know what I mean? I just got on social media. I made my Instagram this year. A few months into COVID, right? And I went in there not really even talking about Comics Manifest or anything like that, just as like a Joe Schmo from obscurity. Okay, let's see what I can do. I posted some pictures, and I put some tags on there, and I think the secret is to really connecting with people on Instagram is really trying to connect with people. Comment here and there. Like people's pictures. Insert yourself into the community, and be confident in your work. That's the thing as well. You get on social media to connect with other creators and connect with other artists, because maybe you don't have a lot of friends that are into art or into comics like you are, and you want to try to talk about what you're passionate about to others. And I think social media is a great way to do that, especially Instagram for comics and art, since it's an image-based medium or image-based like, platform. It's perfect for that. So if you're not on Instagram and you're a cartoonist or an artist, get on there. It's good.
Please get on there. Facebook is the one that I'm on the most. It allows more prose and writer-based to actually do.
Yeah, for writers, Facebook's probably really good.
But Twitter is also really good. And when it comes to social media, a lot of it is based on engagement, and not just I'm going to post as much art as possible. It's not just based on that. It's what can you also respond and do. There are a few Facebook groups that I'm a part of that are entirely helpful if you actually engage in them, ask your questions, try and give your response, even if it's wrong. I think that's the hard thing with social media, is if you're giving an opinion that is not based on social stuff, but based on actual facts. Uh, be okay to be wrong and be corrected. It is so uh, refreshing for people to actually see someone, hey, this is my opinion. It is out here and it might spark an idea for someone. Even if it's like, hey, actually, a better way to do this is this. And then you've learned something too. But more importantly, you've actually engaged with people. You've actually started a conversation, and people will start to recognize you and start thinking about things with you. Uh, One thing that I do for engagement every week that's uh, supposedly really helpful is I do like a positive message. I compose one between 2 and 3 sentences, copy paste, and I just start sending it out to creators I know on Facebook Messenger. You're live right now. I'm going to send you this message of, hey, I hope you have a wonderful day. You are such an amazing creator. Please go out and do something wonderful today because I know you can. Many blessings to you today. And I get responses like, I needed this today.
Mm-hmm.
Needed something like this today.
That's a nice
And
thing
then
to
they
do.
just remember you because you're the happy-go-lucky guy that helped them make feel good for 30 seconds. It does wonders for them and you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's, who would have thought being kind would be so rewarding? You know what I mean? And that's something great, especially in, the art field. I feel like there's a lot of, negativity and a lot of, competition, like we were talking about earlier. People look at their work, compare it to others. There's people probably even compare their own work to, other people, like, oh, I'm worse than them, oh, I'm better than them, blah blah blah. And that, we just can't think that way. Everyone has their own unique voice, everyone has their own thing that they want to say, and everyone has their unique way that they want to say it, right? And
Mhm.
yeah, competition is definitely not the way of going about it and putting people down. you know just bring everyone up with you, and yeah, just being kind will be very rewarding.
I personally want like kind competition.
Yeah.
Like, you son of a bitch, you did that amazing on this anthology. I'm going to work twice as hard just so I can get up to your level. And I'm going to, you know what I'm going to do next anthology? I'm going to release at the same time so that I can get a bunch of creators to support your work too.
Yeah.
It's it's that kind of thing that can really be helpful. Like, uh, we're on Kickstarter right now. It's like, check out the other anthologies and projects and just send them a note of, hey, you funded today. That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Because funding on Kickstarter is never a guarantee. It is absolutely not. You have no clue what's going to happen. Uh, Nigel, exactly when you're confident, it also helps build your art. Confidence is something I, believe it or not, struggle with constantly, and it does show up in uh, my work constantly. It This is one of the biggest things that if Aaron and I can impart some wisdom out to the world, you gotta take your shot. You gotta, Hamilton, don't throw away your shot.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And like I was saying earlier, like what Nigel's saying, confidence, it really shows in your work, and so does enthusiasm. You know what I mean? Like I was saying, your work, you don't need to. I feel like it's, for someone that's starting to make comics, I think it's only detrimental to sit down and say, I'm gonna create the best comic that's ever been made, ever. You know what I mean? Um,
Yeah.
I think that the kind of mindset that you have to have is just like, I'm gonna make something that I'm excited about, and I want to say something that I want to say in like an interesting way, the only way that I can say it. And if that's the thoughts that you're having while you're making a comic, I guarantee your comic is going to be a fun comic to read, and it will be a good comic to read. Um,
Mhm.
because I feel like if you sit down and you try to make the best comic that's ever been made, it's going to be stuffy. It's going to be hard to follow along. It's gonna be, you know, maybe too drawn out, or just too, it's too obvious that you're trying to do something that you don't know what you want to do. You know what I mean? It's confusing. It won't come through. You just have to sit down. Don't worry about it being successful. Don't worry about it, you know, making money or anything. You just have to make a comic that you're excited about, and just keep that enthusiasm the whole way. And that's the hardest part. You know what I mean? Because, you know, as artists, we also struggle with this thing of, while you're working on your on a comic, you look at it and you're like, oh man, this is crap. And then an hour later, oh man, actually it's not that bad. And then an hour later, it's crap again. You know what I mean? Like, we just go through these weird
Yes.
cycles of, like, you know, how we feel about the own thing that our own work that we're producing. And, you know, it's a dance you have to, like, go through, and it's a dance some people struggle through, but you have to get through it. And especially if you want to keep that enthusiasm, because, you know, that's what really comes through, I feel, on the page, is enthusiasm. If someone's excited about their work and they keep that excitement up while they're working through it, you'll enjoy the comic if you're reading it, because you'll sense it.
It's trying to figure out how to think about your work in a new way. Like, I'm working on a prose series, and it's difficult because you get fears rising up constantly of, I'm working on a god based urban fantasy, and everyone's done something about the Greek gods. Everyone's done something about this god or that god, and urban fantasies played out. And as I'm writing, it feels like absolute crap. And I think it was 2 days ago, I'm sitting through, just trying to get through, doing research as I'm writing, which is both a great and terrible thing to do. And I'm looking through this going, okay, who's the god that they're going to be meeting next? And I have this right next to me, which is one of my favorite things that my wife ever gave me.
Cool.
It is an encyclopedia of gods. And I'm like, how many gods of time are there actually? Like, how many gods actually control time? There are two. Over 2,000 deities in the known to this giant book. There are two. And I start delving into Zoroastrianism, and a cult that hasn't been relevant for over 2 centuries. And I'm like, I've got this guy. This is a lion-headed winged deity with a snake coiled around his body constantly. He is the supreme ruler of space and time. That is actually, like, that is not even me coming up with anything new. I can play with this. I can have way too much fun with this. And suddenly
happens. That happens when you're writing a story, you know, like things that come up, you know, like you don't know how creativity is going to strike, but when it does, you'll notice it and you'll be like, oh, this is it. This is what I was searching for. And that keeps you going.
And when that happens, understand that the feeling will fade, and that's okay. Understand sometimes that you are going to be writing something or creating some art, and you're going to say, this is stupid, and you're still going to be doing it. Mm-hmm. One of the best things about digital art, just like writing, is the fact that you do have a delete key that you can go back to later.
Yeah. That good undo button. Thank goodness for that.
All right. So we are still at 99 backers, and hoping for that first person to actually bring us over into.
Come on.
I know, Nigel. Sorry to put you on the spot. We also have less than $250 to fund, and we have a full week to go. Mm-hmm. But this is the sort of stuff that I love doing. I love doing philosophical, political, religious comics because for me, it's the kind of thing I get excited about because it's hot button topics.
Hmm.
Okay, let's talk about this because then I feel like I'm helping make the world a better place just by talking and doing good art.
Yeah, that's interesting because, like you were saying earlier, like with Why Faith, a lot of people that were like, yeah, I'll do it, but it's probably not going to be successful. It's because it's taboo. You know what I mean? People aren't supposed to be talking about that kind of stuff in
Mhm.
that kind of way. But you're putting it out there, and people who have read it, they're like, oh, it's if we actually sit and talk about this stuff, it's really not that bad. You know what I mean? It's not that scary to talk about
Yep.
this stuff. So yeah, putting anything out there that's taboo, I think is what we need to do. You know what I mean? Like because it's
Yeah.
taboo, we have to sit and talk about it, right? So yeah, I think it's awesome that you're putting these kind of projects together as well. Um, but yeah,
Uh, you can blame a master's in theology in it because the way Why Faith began was final year at Boston University School of Theology. It was going to be a wonderful school project and my graduate school work, and we're going to get a ton of artists. And BU was like, that's a great thing for you to do on your own time. But luckily, my last semester, I took a class called Gender and Religion in the Graphic Novel.
okay.
Uh, and this wonderful professor who's from Switzerland. And she was talking with me, and I was getting, like Aaron was saying, super excited. And she realized, oh, he's not trying to convert the heathen masses to the cult of Christianity.
Yeah.
Maybe this could work. And she actually was the person to introduce me to Trina Robbins, the amazing underground indie comics creator who was the first woman to draw Wonder Woman for interior.
Yeah.
And that was really how Why Faith started, is her being able to just say, hey, this is interesting. Uh, if you are only a fan of art, I think Aaron and I will agree, please tell the creator if you enjoy art. Please fan out. Please geek out. Nigel, thank you so very much
Thanks, Nigel. See
for
you, man.
talking to us. Take care. It was wonderful to be able to say hello. But if you're a fan, geek out. Uh, I I do not know what level of stardom you have to get until fans really start to creep you out. I have not reached that yet. So, it, very, very much.
Yeah. Yeah. Like we were saying earlier, if you're interested in making comics and selling comics and building a fan base, you just have to put yourself out there. It's not that hard. It's scary, but it's not that hard. And you know what? Like it's not going to be as scary if you actually just set up and do it. You get
Mhm.
used to sharing your work with people, and it's nice when people actually do like your work. So um, it's all good. And plus, you'll probably connect with a community of creators as well. And there's nothing wrong with making friends that make comics too.
Exactly. All right, we've been doing this for almost an hour.
Okay.
Aaron, what do you want people to take from Screams of Thy Father, from the Great Commandment, and from this eventful year?
Well, I think the thing that I want people to take from just my work in general, and is just to not worry about how good your comic looks or worry about how successful your comic is. You just have to dive into things that you find interesting and just try to do something interesting in a way that you can do it. You know what I mean? You have to find your unique voice, and that's going to take a long time. Uh, it's going to take maybe 5 comics, maybe 10 comics for you to start really figuring it out. How do I like to tell stories? Like, what's my unique voice? Like, what am I interested in? And before that, you're probably going to be like super inspired by people that you're inspired by, and that's going to come through, and that's okay. But as you keep going, you'll build that unique voice, and you'll say, okay, this is who I am, and this is what I have to say in comics. Like, this is it. And yeah, you just have to keep making comics, and you have to keep making comics. But for this eventful year, I think we have to say, you know, not tomorrow isn't promised for everyone. You know what I mean? You have to make the best that you can today. And if today you want to make a comic, and that's something that you really want to do, make sure you make that comic, because you don't know if you can make it tomorrow.
Don't put off work that you can do today, because it's supposed to be fun work. Comics, especially if you're doing indie, this is supposed to be passion project. You should be doing things that make you feel happy about actually doing them. If you don't, finish that project up so you can work on the next one.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So yeah, and don't worry about it. Like, you want to work on the things, like what Jack was saying. You work on the things that you want to work on. You don't want to go by, you know, 5 years goes by and you're like, oh, I should have worked on that comic. You know, just do it now.
Yeah, do it now. And if something doesn't succeed right now, I know stories of creators who finished up their comic, and then 4 or 5 years down the line, people were constantly asking for a new one, so they made a new one.
Yeah, and I also know, you know, like Jack Kirby made Fantastic Four when he was over 40 years old. Like Fantastic Four #1 came out. Jack Kirby made that when he was over 40 years old. You know what I mean? So it's never late for anybody. You know what I mean? Like, if you have a passion for storytelling in comics form, or anything creative at all, it's never too late. Go for it. You know what I mean?
Exactly. All right. Well, thank you all so very much for being a part of this. The book is The Great Commandment. It is on Kickstarter right now. You can get that and Why Faith. The amazing writer-artist is Aaron M. Williams, who you can check out on Instagram at Aaron M. Will. And my name is Jack Holder. Thank you all so very much for dropping by. If you are watching this not live, still feel free to comment and ask any questions. I'll try and get to them at a later time. And have a wonderful rest of your day and rest of 2020.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much. Take care, everyone.